2015 was a rather divided year for Nickelodeon. There were a couple bright lights during that time, even though there was a sea of crappy shows still airing. Harvey Beaks made its debut in March of that year to the praise of many, myself included. SpongeBob was still recovering from seasons 6 to 8 and was still in an awkward spot due to the second movie. TMNT was still going. I never watched it, but I heard it was good. Despite this, there was still utter trash like Breadwinners, Pig Goat Banana Cricket, Rabbids Invasion. Why did I like this show as a kid? And of course, all of the live action slop going on at the time. And Alvin had a show. I didn't even want to see Alvin in 2007, let alone 2015. But there was one other show that debuted on Nickelodeon during this time. Not many people remember its run, mainly because of how short it was, but the circumstances surrounding its removal from Nickelodeon is the most interesting part. That show was Auggie and the Cockroaches. I'm going to be talking about this show and its short-lived run on Nickelodeon in the US. With all that being said, let's get right into it. So, Auggie and the Cockroaches. What is it? Well, it was a cartoon that was created in France by a company called Xylem. I never knew how to pronounce the company's name. They made a couple other cartoons like Zig and Sharko and Space Goofs. The show is about a blue cat named Auggie constantly dealing with 3 cockroaches living inside his house. The cockroaches, named Joey, Marky, and Dee Dee, are always causing some kind of problems for Auggie and his friends. This show is very much like Tom and Jerry in terms of the plot and structure. Also like Tom and Jerry, the characters only speak using noises and sound effects. The supporting characters include Jack, Augie's cousin. He's literally a typical Alpha Sigma grindset dude. I have no doubt that this guy follows Andrew Tate. Also, he has a crush on Augie's sister, but him and Auggie are cousins. I didn't know it was like that between them. Keep it in the family, I guess.
That's nasty.
I think they actually retconned Auggie and Jack being cousins later on, only presenting them as friends afterwards. I guess that makes it okay now. Anyways, there's Olivia, Augie's wife. Honestly, I never cared for the episodes when she's the main character. She just does the token love interest stuff half the time. And then there's Bob. He's a dog. Moving on. The original show began in 1998 and continued for a few seasons over the years. Now, I consider the original Auggie and the Cockroaches to be seasons 1 to 4. Those were the only seasons where the show's plot remained the same as always. Season 5 onwards is where the show lost me. Season 5 consisted of the traveling through history episodes. I just wasn't interested in this. I don't even think I can count the later seasons as new. All of the season 6 and 7 episodes are just remakes of previous episodes with noticeably cheaper animation. And that's essentially where Auggie ended. A few years later, in 2020, 2 Auggie spin-offs would be announced, both being available on Netflix. Auggie and the Cockroaches Next Generation and Auggie, a preschool-focused stop-motion cartoon. Next Gen goes for a more Bluey-esque art style and introduces a new character, Pia, or Paya, I have no idea. I haven't really watched this one, so I can't really say much about it, but I have seen a few episodes of Auggie. It's a very simple show, doesn't feel like modern brain rot, and I do adore the designs of the characters. So that's all you need to know about the original cartoon. If you ever want to check it out for yourself, all the episodes are available on the official Auggie YouTube channel. Now, if you haven't heard of the show before, chances are you live in the US. Auggie isn't really popular here in the States. However, over in places like India and Europe, the show is widely known. Even though Auggie did have a US presence in the beginning, it didn't last very long. That was until 2015. During the first month of that year, Nickelodeon began showing promos for Auggie's eventual debut on the channel. The show would officially begin airing on February 23rd. Nickelodeon only aired episodes from season 4, it seems. I'm not sure why they didn't air any episodes from the first 3 seasons. There might have been some kind of licensing issue. Auggie would also be added to Nickelodeon's website, featuring clips of the episodes and other stuff. I couldn't find the ratings from this show's time on Nick, but I'm assuming they weren't too high considering how little the show got promoted. I actually remember when the show was brought to Nickelodeon, but I barely saw any advertisements for it. Much like a lot of their new shows, Nickelodeon didn't prioritize them as much as SpongeBob and the Fairly OddParents. Perhaps that was also a factor of what was to come. So outside of the limited amount of episodes and lack of advertisement, things seemed to be going well for Auggie. It aired among the rest of Nickelodeon's shows just fine. From what I remember, it didn't seem to air at an awkward time slot either, like it wasn't around late night or the Nicktoons graveyard block. So, what happened? Why did this show with a somewhat decent following end up getting the boot the very next month? Well, let's take a look at exactly what the show was putting out. During this run on Nickelodeon, the 40th episode of Season 4 would air on TV, titled Unhappy Camper. The plot was pretty simple. Auggie and Olivia go on a camping trip in their trailer only for all of Augie's enemies to ruin the trip for him. Admittedly, it's not the best episode. A lot of Season 4's episodes are like this, which is why I don't care much for this season. So, the episode sounds innocent, right? Well, the episode itself was fine. However, there was something that appeared in the episode that turned a few heads, to say the least. Around the 2-minute 8-second mark, there's a scene where Auggie walks into his trailer after the cockroaches swap the labels on the water tanks. For a few seconds, you can see a framed photo of an ocean on the wall before it's blocked by the door. Now, that seems pretty normal. There's nothing particularly wrong with that photo, nothing to be concerned about, right? Except this is not the photo that people saw during the original airing on Nickelodeon. Not at all. The audience were presented with a framed photo of a bare-chested woman, just letting it all hang out right then and there.
What?
Now, I understand that this show was not new to adding mature scenes. Like, I'm actually surprised some of this stuff was allowed.
Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
Though France is probably less concerned with what gets put into cartoons, unlike here in the US. But I think showing uncensored boobs is a bit over the line, considering the show is aimed at children. This photo was quickly removed after the airing, but it had me wondering how this even happened in the first place. And before I get flooded with comments from that community, no, it was not a hijacking. What most likely happened is that someone at Asylum Animation had a copy of Unhappy Camper with the adult photo, and they probably didn't find out until too late that this was going to air on Nickelodeon. Either that or the animators weren't informed about what can and can't be shown on children's TV in the US. Either way, this was not good.
This is not a banger.
It wasn't long before news outlets began posting articles about this incident online. That surprises me considering that this scene itself isn't even 5 seconds long. Probably another reason why they thought they could get away with it. But this did Nickelodeon absolutely zero favors, and it was the final nail in the coffin for Auggie's time on the channel. After this incident, Auggie's fate was pretty much sealed. By March, the very next month after the show made its debut, Nickelodeon cancelled any future airings of the show, and nuked any mentions of the show on the Nickelodeon website.
There's no way out of this one. You're done.
This of course wasn't the end of Auggie internationally. The show still airs in other areas of the world, but for the US, this was the last we would ever see of Auggie on cable television. It also apparently aired on a programming block called Kids Click, but my research ended there. It's been a decade since this incident happened, but it's still stuck with me ever since. But it's also not surprising. With the bad reputation Nickelodeon has gained associating itself with people like Dan Schneider, John Kay, and Chris Savino, it's actually surprising seeing the channel take action against something like this. Did this incident damage the reputation of Auggie? Honestly, I can't really say it did. Since the show already wasn't well known here, there weren't a lot of people watching it, meaning that a lot of people probably didn't even know this happened. And people outside of the US probably didn't know about this either. Auggie still has a lot of fans and was still able to get a few spin-offs out. Something interesting that has happened since then, however, is that the episode Unhappy Camper actually kinda made a return. In Auggie and the Cockroaches Next Gen, which I mentioned earlier, the 20th episode is titled Unhappy Campers, plural instead of singular, and it features Auggie and Pia going camping. I thought it was funny that they chose the same name as their most controversial episode. But anyways, I've rarely ever seen a TV show speedrun its removal from a channel quite like Auggie. We'll never know how much farther the show would have gotten on Nickelodeon. Though I'm pretty sure if it wasn't this incident, it was gonna be the ratings that ended them. If you're not SpongeBob, you have to worry about those numbers. At the end of the day, Auggie recovered from the incident and hasn't had any scandals since then. Nickelodeon is even worse now than it was a decade ago, and the Quiet on Set documentary made things even worse for them. So, in a funny way, Auggie came out on top. Thank you for watching this video. As always, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Swing by my official merch store if you'd like, and check out my artwork. Both are linked in the description. Until next time, stay tuned for more content.